Daniel Ricciardo might be coming back to Formula 1 sooner than we would have thought. According to reports, it does appear that Helmut Marko has already given Nyck de Vries an ultimatum of 3 to 4 races, where if the Dutch driver does not improve, he will be replaced by Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri. Now, on surface, this looks like an amazing opportunity for Daniel Ricciardo to make his way back into Formula 1. However, in my view, if Daniel Ricciardo goes ahead and replaces Nyck de Vries mid-season at AlphaTauri, I think this will prove to be a career suicide for the Australian. Why? Let's take a look. Now, first of all, when Daniel Ricciardo talked to the media in the Australian Grand Prix, there was one thing which he was very specific about. He will be coming back to Formula 1 only and only in a competitive car. If he does not have a competitive car, he has no inclination of coming back. Well, the team had the 9th fastest car last season, and even this season, if we are honest, the car is still around 9th or probably even the slowest car. Sure, Yuki Tsunoda has done a great job, but overall if you look at the numbers, it is quite obvious that AlphaTauri is not a good car in any which way. Even in the midfield, it's not as competitive. And when you take all these things into consideration, Daniel Ricciardo will be coming back into a car which is arguably worse than what he drove last time. Then he will also be coming unprepared. And when a driver is coming in unprepared in arguably one of the tightest and the most competitive midfield that we've had, he's not going to have a good time. Odds will be stacked against him, and in all honesty, that is not the best way to make a return to Formula 1 after the kind of season that he had with McLaren in 2022. Now, talking about the possible teammate for Daniel Ricciardo if he moves to AlphaTauri, well, it is going to be Yuki Tsunoda. And for all intents and purposes, Tsunoda is in red hot form. This season, he is arguably, at least in my view and the rankings that I've been doing this season, he is one of the top 5 drivers this season. And he has been very consistent, scoring a P10 or a P11 on a consistent basis in an AlphaTauri is very impressive. Now, lest we forget, one of the major reasons why Daniel Ricciardo was booted out of McLaren was because he was outperformed by a younger driver who had been with the team for longer. Lando Norris had already driven for McLaren for 2 years when Ricciardo came in. And as we all saw, Ricciardo was unable to adapt and suffered and ultimately had to see his contract get cut short and leave McLaren a year earlier than he was supposed to. Right now, he will be moving into the same trap where Yuki Tsunoda has been driving for AlphaTauri for multiple years now, and he knows everything about the team. Daniel Ricciardo will be moving into the lion's den again, and that is something he arguably should not be doing. He should learn from the mistake that he made earlier as well. And somewhere a move like this does not make sense at all. Now, to add to the previous point, I think we should not forget one of the major issues that Daniel Ricciardo has faced in his career, at least what we've seen in the second part since he left Red Bull, is his inability to adapt to new cars. We all saw, it's already quite documented, the kind of struggles that he had with McLaren, where his driving style, well, despite of all the efforts that he made, in 2 years he was unable to adapt his driving style to the particular demands of the McLaren. Even at Renault, although not many people remember, when Ricciardo moved to Renault, he was still struggling quite a bit to adapt to the car, and it was only in the second half of the first season with Renault that he was finally able to get on top of the demands of the car. So yeah, for a driver that tends to struggle to adapt to new cars, for him to move to AlphaTauri mid-season and try to adapt to a new car, learn all those things on the job during a race weekend, it is just not an ideal situation for Daniel Ricciardo to return to Formula 1. Finally, I think this is the most important point. Daniel Ricciardo's reputation, it cannot suffer another major setback, because if that happens, his career is all but done. Everyone remembers when he joined McLaren in 2021, he was considered one of the best drivers on the Formula 1 grid. He was expected to beat Lando Norris and lead McLaren. Well, that did not happen. The 2 years were a bit of a bust. However, a lot of it has been put down to the kind of car that McLaren produced. A car that had a very specific driving style and that did not suit Daniel Ricciardo in any which way. Having said that, there are still doubts around the Australian. Not many people are confident and will be willing to take a punt on Ricciardo. At this stage, if he moves mid-season to AlphaTauri against Yuki Tsunoda, We are looking at a driver that is stacking odds against himself for a reward that might not even be there. Because at the end of the day, we have to realize Sergio Perez is performing very well at Red Bull. He's even challenging Max Verstappen on and off. Unless the two drivers have a falling out, you don't expect Red Bull to change anything upfront. If that is the case, there is no upside for Daniel Ricciardo to try to gamble on such a large scale by moving to AlphaTauri and then going up against Yuki Tsunoda and doing that in an unprepared manner, because he would have zero testing days in which he has driven the AlphaTauri. When that happens, you are just preparing yourself for failure. And if Daniel Ricciardo ends up being on the shorter end of the stick against Yuki Tsunoda, you are looking at a driver whose career is it's at the last stage, because at that point in time, no team will be willing to touch him. The kind of demand that he has right now, especially in the midfield teams like Haas, Alfa Romeo, and maybe others, he will not have that demand anymore. And when that happens, that is it for him. Right now, as we speak, a team like Haas will be happy to have Ricciardo. A team like Williams will be willing to pick him up. And even Sauber will be more than happy to have Daniel Ricciardo on board. But if Ricciardo joins AlphaTauri and is comprehensively outperformed by Yuki Tsunoda or even beaten by him, you expect those offers to dry out and you expect Ricciardo to lose that leverage that he currently enjoys. So yeah, when you think on these lines, you have to question what's the point? What is the point of taking such a huge gamble by joining AlphaTauri mid-season to replace Nyck de Vries? It doesn't make any sense. And if I'm being honest, that is the kind of gamble that if Ricciardo takes, it could prove to be a career suicide for him. So yeah, these are my views. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that if such an offer is put in front of Daniel Ricciardo, he should take it? Or he should not, and he should rather wait for the end of the 2023 season to start his career once again from 2024? Do let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Thanks for watching and see you next time.